Hello gang, so today I want to show you a very interesting tip in JavaScript. That is JavaScript object destructuring. So regarding JavaScript, we have an extremely useful way of extracting properties from an object. And also remember that this destructuring works on arrays. However, the main focus of this video will be objects. So let's say we have our object here called employee with the following properties: the name, ID, and age. Now I want to extract name from the name. For example, I want to extract a name from this particular object. So initially, before ES 2015 or ES6, we will have to assign this variable into another new variable. Let's say you create a variable here, and you say this is name is equals to, and then you assign the employees dot name. This is how we'll do it. Let me run this so that you see. Yeah, so that will display our name. Cool. Next. Now, this still works in modern JavaScript. However, it can be optimized. We can omit the double use binding of the name property and destructure the properties like this. So we say we now initialize, instead of this line, we say we initialize and say name. We just add these curly braces is equals to employees, and that will give us the name of this employee. So it's a very nice, eloquent way of destructuring. And also we can destructure multiple, like name and ID. Maybe I can destructure the two and then say I want name or maybe name and ID. Let me do this. Say I need the ID first and the name. So if I run this, you'll see we'll still have the two. So that's trick number one. But wait, what? Pretty much magic, right? We don't have to double name the variable, and then and we can assign them directly into their variables. So that's the first. Now let's go to destructuring and keeping the rest of the objects. That's my next stage. Now let's say you have an object with multiple fields. You want to extract one of the fields and then keep track of whatever fields which are left. You want to extract a name and then keep the rest of the fields as per. So what do we do? You might think that we need to assign all of the remaining properties, but this is built in by JavaScript using the spread operator. So how do we do it? So let's say we have here, I create I create a constant. And then say constant name. Name, and then we have we spread the rest of the rest of the employees object. So we just use this double the three dots. That's the spread operator. Later on I'll do a tutorial on that, and then we can do a log of this. So let's log the name and then also log the rest, and then we see how this one will behave. So we run that. Employees, sorry for that. We run employee, not yees. What am I doing? Sorry guys. Yeah, so that's it. So we took the name, and then the remaining of the object, we put it in a rest object. Did that help you? That's trick number one. Let's go to the next one. Trick number three, destructuring with a different name. So perhaps you want to destructure some properties under a different name. Let's take, for example, in the above example, and state that we want to receive the address of that object named as, maybe, let's say, shipping address. We can use a semicolon as a divider to address a new name to this particular address. For example, here I've picked the address. Let's say, now let me go back here. So you see here I have the address of the employee. If I tap on this, you'll see the address. Now, I want to give this a different name and call it, maybe I want it to be shipping address. How do I do that? I'll just add a semicolon here and say shipping address. That's how I'll be able to extract it with a different name. Pretty nice, wow. Now, the fourth tip, destructuring potentially empty values. Let's retake our user of the object. We already destructured the age, but now I forgot to mention this in the optional parameter that some users might have chosen not to set it. In that case, we can fall back on the default value. And let's say here I say I wanted just the age only of the employee. Yeah, let's get the age. I showed you this before. Now, that works great. But let's see a user that doesn't have the age property, assuming it reaches an object whereby this user doesn't have this age property. We comment it out. It will be our output here. It will say undefined. So how can we give it a default? Now, pretty much, you can say the default age is 18 years. Yep, as simple as that. Let me run. Pretty cool, right? Now, let's go to trick number 4. Trick number 4. We want to destructure in a loop. How do we do it? How do we destructure in a loop? All the above example works based on a flat object, but a lot of time you'll have an array of users. So for example, let me just make it as simple as possible. Let me remove this and say I have an array of users. That's the first user. I'll say this is the second user. Then I say this is let's call her Mary Jane. Mary Jane. Yeah, pretty cool. Let's just play around with the ID a bit. Cool. Now, we want to destructure. How can we do it? We can loop over these items and destructure them inside the loop itself. So let me show you how we do this. So this is what we'll do. We'll say user for loop and say let maybe the name of the user and the age of the user right? I will say the name and the age of the user. Then we can log now. Log this. You can say now log. Now there's this using of backticks to instead in ES6 instead of doing the plus in JavaScript. There's another trick on top of your table. So you can say display that. So you just use that backtick and this dollar sign and the quotes. Then we say here I want the age. Yeah, all. Yeah, all. Let's see the output of this. So if we run this of employee, sorry. So if we run this, yeah, pretty cool. So we have looped through, but this one is undefined. So let's say we have their ages because we don't have a default one. So we say age. Age is 45. Now let's do this. Pretty cool. That's it. Let's move to our next trick. Yep. So let's go to trick number 6, dynamic name destructuring. Haha. Now this is interesting. What happens when we only want to know the variable we want to destruct at the runtime? Let's say a user click on a button that allows them to extract a random property from an object. And then we have the handler, which we'll call it, for example, here, let me revert this to one object. Yeah. And then here, let's say we have this handler, maybe get property, or maybe, yeah, this one is a handler which will give us the property of what the user wants. For example, they want name, or maybe they might want the age, this employee, yeah, something like that. They'll want a different thing. So this one is the first handler that will give us what they want. So how can we extract name from here using that handler in Destructuring? Now, let's do it. Here, very simple trick. We just say a constant, and then inside this constant, we first supply this handler, get property. That handler will give us it will return a value for us. We say return that value, and then out of employee. Cool. From there, we can log and see. Let's see, return value. Let's see. That's it. Let's see. We return the name. For example, if we want to return the age, here's what we'll do. Very simple. We return a dynamic name or a dynamic property that we only knew during a runtime or at runtime. Now let's move to the next, destructuring from a function. That's our last tip, number 7. How do we destructure an item from a function? Now, let's say we have a function that returns an object. Let's say, let me just do this and say, assuming now this is a function, an arrow function for that case, maybe get the best employee. Let's get the best employee. I'll use an arrow function. Sorry for that. So I'll just use an arrow function here. Say get employee, and say this is an arrow function which will return for me the employee here. Let me do this and say maybe return for me. Return this for me. Yeah, that's it. So this my function here, get best employee, should return an employee. For example, let me log it here so that we see how it works. So this is a function, so you need to call it as a function. And then we say return an employee. So you see, my function returns this one employee. So if we call it by default, that one will give us that data is shown below. However, if you only want to get let's say the age or the name of that employee, we can do this. We can say maybe constant name, the same way we were doing the destructuring. Name is equals to get best employee. That's our final trick. Let's see this. Let's see if we'll get the name. Let's run this and see our last trick. Did it work? Yeah, congratulations. Yes, we can. We can simply destructure the return value and assign the property that we need. Thank you for watching my videos. For more tricks, I'll be uploading one video at a time to give you more tricks on JavaScript and any other language. Let me know in the comment below what next thing you want to learn about, or where do you want to get some tips from. Thank you guys. See you.